now, but I can't.
Okay. Hey, everybody. It's Monday night. It's Always Bookin Comedy. We got a very special guest from Tennessee, Shawn Carter. Comedian, still comedian? Yes?
Yeah, still comedian.
Yeah. Currently a comedian, also a comedy club owner. We love to have comedy club owners on Always Bookin Comedy. Shawn, where are you? When did you get started in comedy? Tell us a story.
Well, I'm currently in Bristol, Tennessee, where I live with my wife and my daughter. And my wife's originally from Bristol, and I'm from like the Boston area. I grew up in a suburb of Boston.
Okay.
So I started in Boston. I started the very first show I did was at their like A club back in the early 2000s. It's called the Comedy Connection. And
is that different than the Comedy Connection that's in Providence?
I think that I don't think they were like associated with each other. I think it's a name that like a few different comedy clubs used.
Okay.
But they were like kind of independent still, because there was one in Portland, Maine, and there was one in Boston, and there's still one in Providence. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And when was that?
That was in probably like 2001, 2002, something like that.
Okay, so you're a decade plus into comedy.
I am. Yeah, I've been around for a little bit.
All right. Did you travel around New England when you were doing comedy in Boston?
Yeah, I did a lot of shows in New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont. Vermont has a really nice comedy club in Burlington. The Vermont.
I was just there, Woolen Mill, right?
What is it?
The Woolen Mill?
Oh, I was saying.
Oh, you mean the big
Comedy
one?
Club.
Yeah. Okay. Nice, awesome. And so, how did you end up in Tennessee?
Well, this is a fun story. My wife and I bought an RV, and we were gonna like travel the country. Like I hadn't gone too far outside of New England for comedy, and I wanted to go like build a network, And we got this RV, and we got rid of our lease and like sold everything that we owned and moved into this RV with our dog. And then we went to Bristol, Tennessee to visit her parents, like because that was our first stop. And that was right when COVID like shut everything down, and we couldn't travel anymore. So we ended up like living in their basement for 6 months. Her dad's a doctor and like works like medical, like on the internet, like, advising people. So I would literally they have a Murphy bed that I would have to fold up in the morning so that he could go to work in his office.
That's crazy. Okay, so now you're in Bristol, Tennessee. You leave Boston, where you were doing comedy. Just real quick before we leave that topic, if you could go back to those first couple years, any advice you'd give yourself?
Oh man, be patient and be nice to everybody, and don't like look down on anybody,
Yeah. You don't know where anybody's going. I was just talking about that the other day with a Denver comic, how we were at a show and there was somebody who, has just gotten pretty good finally.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but it happens.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens really fast for people that you didn't think it was ever going to happen for.
Right. Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay. So now you're in Tennessee. Obviously the pandemic. Did you do any online stuff?
I did a couple of online shows, but I wasn't feeling that. It just was not the same,
Okay. Were you doing outdoor stuff? You're in the South, so maybe they were doing stuff. I don't know much about Bristol.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't really like a comedy scene or anything when I showed up here in Bristol.
Give me a geography lesson. Is Bristol close to anything big like Nashville or Memphis?
Sure. The closest thing probably is Asheville, as far as like
North
cities
Carolina,
that a lot of people would know. Yeah, North Carolina. Asheville, North Carolina is like a 90-minute drive. Knoxville's like 2 hours. So it's kind of we are on the Virginia border, kind of near North Carolina as well. So we're like in the northeast part of Tennessee.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Nice. All right. So there's no scene. Did you decide to drive places, or did you just stop doing comedy for a spell?
Yeah, I just stopped for as long as that was happening because I did not need the money, to be honest. Like I didn't I wasn't getting anything out of online shows. Like I wasn't growing. I didn't feel like I was going to get any positive feedback if I was like doing a drive-in theater. And,
right.
To be honest, like, not like we're rich or anything, but my wife makes the money. Like I'm a comic, so I don't make any money. And that's just how it is, So like, I was like, I'm not going to be like, where can I drive to in a 2 hour, drive that I can go and do a show that I'm not going to enjoy for money that's not going to support my family.
Right. Got it. And so now you own a comedy club. Is that correct? Or you started a comedy club? How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, it happened because when we moved here, and we ended up moving here because of family stuff, just like our family life got so complicated here in Tennessee that it kind of required us to stay here. And,
Okay.
and then, at that time I was kind of like, as we were kind of like bringing this baby into our home, and I was like, I had a lot of fun doing comedy. If I don't ever do it again, like I'll be sad, but that's my life. Like I can just be a dad. That's fine. And my wife was like, I love comedy. I love watching you do comedy. Like I want it to exist around here. And so we should like open a comedy club. And that's just the genesis of it right there.
That's wild. What a
Yeah.
great partner. That's pretty exciting
Yeah. You couldn't
proposition. So
ask
then
for,
where do you take that? How does that even happen?
I would have never imagined somebody that's like so supportive.
Yeah. So, but like, how do you like? I don't know. Did you already know comedy club owners in the Boston
Well, I,
area?
I I knew like the only comedy club owners I really knew back then was Natalie and Nathan in Vermont. Like I said, the Vermont Comedy Club up there in Burlington, who have
Okay.
been really friendly and like I've been able to pick their brains a little bit and everything. But I've met some more since we've opened, and I've learned a lot since we've opened.
I'm sure. So how do you approach that? I assume you have to get a physical space. That's like job number one. Or do you pick a name? Like what's your checklist of the first 5 things you got to do? Maybe you get
Yeah, I
some
guess.
money. I don't know. Open a bank account. I don't know.
Well, first, I think we picked the name before anything else, and it was kind of like, should it be, somehow like along the lines of my name, because my last name is Carter, which is also kind of like a historic name where we live, because like June Carter and that family, lived in this area, so they're like,
Okay.
that's a very popular name. But I also didn't want to like misrepresent myself and pretend like I was part of that family.
Got it.
So I kind of felt like I should keep my name separate for that reason. And also, like, in case, we ever had to move and somebody else took over the club, I don't want to be
Mhm.
like Carter's Comedy Club or something.
Right.
So my wife threw out this name of Blue Ridge Comedy Club, and I just thought it had like a nice ring to it. And I said, let's go with that. And from there, yeah, then we started looking
Is
at,
is Blue Ridge something famous in that area? Is that like a mountain range or
yeah,
something?
like the Blue Ridge Mountains are
Okay.
around here. So like we live in Appalachia, you know, um, between here and like North Carolina, and I think all the way up to Pennsylvania. There's these like, Appalachian Mountains, and so we live in that area, and it's really nice. It's great scenery, but I thought it kind of had a cool sound to it too.
Nice. And how big a town is Bristol or city?
I mean, Bristol's technically a city, but there's a lot of cows and horses here. So, like, I don't know how depending on how you qualify what a city is. Bristol, Virginia, and Tennessee they're like twin cities. So we live on the state line.
Okay.
Like right now, our club is literally on what's called State Street, which like one side of the street is Tennessee, the other side is Virginia.
Okay.
And so I think they're each probably like 30,000 people. So it's pretty small.
Okay.
Um,
So did you like get a commercial real estate person or just walk around looking for rent signs, for lease signs?
yeah, we kind of like went around just looking at signs and looking on the internet to see what was available. And then we kind of happened upon this in our journey, this person that kind of owned a lot of buildings downtown that was like, I have a spot where you would fit. And so they showed us this space that is actually somebody else was trying to get out of the lease there. And they were
Okay.
like, do you want to get in now? And we looked at it like this would be a nice intimate room for comedy. So we went in right away.
And so what kind of did you have to do any construction?
Very little. Like we basically just had to put in like we had to change what was a counter to make it a bar. We kind of added a little bit to it, and basically, and build a stage. We like had to put a little stage in there too.
Okay.
But that's about it. And setting up lights and sound, but that was all easy to do.
Sure. Did you have to put, was it already a theater? Like, did it have chairs or did you bring in chairs?
No, we had to we had to get chairs, and like that's like one of those things where you're just like, I never would have expected this part of it to be so difficult. You
I'm
know,
sure.
you look at the price of
Are
it.
they permanent or are they like, well, like what are they?
They're like banquet chairs. They're just like,
Okay. They don't
these
fold.
they don't fold, but
Yeah.
they have little cushions on them. But
Yeah.
I'd say I try to keep the shows 90 minutes because after that,
Nobody wants to sit there.
yeah, you probably don't want to sit there for 2 hours. So
Yeah.
um,
How many seats does the Blue Ridge Comedy Club have?
we have 100, and our max occupancy is 107. So like with staff, we can fit
Nice.
100 in there, and it is tight. It's
That's
it's
good for comedy.
shoulder to shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you like about you've been doing comedy 10 plus years. You've seen a lot of rooms. What are your favorite things about that space for comedy?
One is that it's small enough that even if you sell 30 or 40 tickets, you're gonna have probably a good show as long as you got an audience that's ready to have some fun. So
Mhm.
you don't need to be selling 100 tickets.
Mhm.
If you sell 100 tickets, you're gonna, you're probably gonna have a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be real tight in there. It's gonna get hot. But it's nice. They got like it's got some brick walls, not behind the stage, but
Right.
on other parts of the room. And
Nice.
the the
How many years have you been there?
we've been there almost 3 years now.
Okay. Have
Yeah.
you made any improvements over those 3 years? Put some art on the
Yeah.
wall or
At some point, we actually won a grant, and we put like the backdrop for our wall now is like we painted it all blue, and then we had somebody create these like Blue Ridge Mountain sort of looking things behind us.
cool.
So, and we post some stuff on Instagram and stuff. So if anybody ever sees like something behind the comic that's like totally blue and kind of looks like mountains, it's probably from our state.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. What kind of lessons did you learn opening up the place?
Oh man, everything's always going to cost more than you expect, like, and I don't know. It's just a constant grind. You just got to constantly be working. So,
How often are you open?
we're open right now, Wednesday through Saturday.
Okay.
And we've done like some Sunday shows.
Mhm.
We had a guy here last week, Sam Miller, he came in
Oh,
and
I
awesome.
know Sam from
Yeah, yeah,
Olympia. I've had
yeah, yeah,
breakfast with
yeah.
Sam. Great dude. So
Yeah, he
fun.
was great.
Did he sell a lot of t-shirts?
I think he did, and he had some
Good.
records with him and stuff too. So
Good.
it was great, and his crowd was really cool too. So
Nice.
it
Shout
was
out to
really
Sam Miller, everybody. Check him out.
yeah.
Awesome. So what top 3 I don't want to call them mistakes, but opportunities for improvement when you were that first year, let's say.
Oh man, opportunities for improvement in the first year. I would say probably, and this is something that I still struggle with, is just like my own preference in booking compared to maybe what everybody around here would rather see. I am a bit of a
Interesting.
fish
Can you
out of
talk about
water.
that a little bit?
Well, I'm a Boston guy. Like I grew up in Boston, and I'm not from here, and
Mhm.
I think that there's a perception that I maybe don't fit in, but at a certain point, I'm not. I don't have the same sense of humor as everybody around here. I didn't grow up with the same sorts of things that they did, and maybe sometimes I'd be better off, asking somebody that lives here, like, who would you like to see? But
Right.
the
Do you
problem
do
is that
that
I
now?
mean,
Like, do you survey people?
sure, yeah. I mean, I've put it out there on the internet, like, who do you guys want to see? And it's like it's one of those things where, like, the first time I ever did it, somebody was like, "Oh, I'd love to see Leanne Morgan," and I didn't know who she was at the time, so I like looked her up, and I'm like, "Oh, she's on like a 52 city theater tour," so I don't think we're gonna get her, but like, but for this area, I mean, obviously she's very popular everywhere, but like specifically, I think she's from like this region. So
Okay.
there are certain people that I'm just like not really as aware of probably as I should be.
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah,
that's a
that's
major
that's
blind
great
spot.
that you have self-awareness about that. I mean, I think that's it's tricky to curate the talent that's on stage to make the business successful, I would say. I
Yeah.
run 75 comedy shows a year. I don't have a club, I don't have a physical space, but I kind of, you know, I deal with a lot of the same. I deal with chairs all the time. I
Mhm.
I could talk about chairs for hours.
Right.
Light, sound, stage, all that stuff, and curating headliners and support acts. It's a lot, and I guess it's interesting that you didn't have. You said you didn't. There wasn't a comedy scene there. Like, what do you do about hosts and stuff? Have you developed a scene?
Yeah, we have. I mean, at this point, I think we have like 30 people that are like pretty regular at
That's
open
great.
mic and yeah, and like showcase shows and stuff like that. And I really feel like there's like probably 10 people that I can really depend on if I need
Yeah,
a host. And of those, probably five of them could feature at this point, 3 years
nice.
in. So it's definitely growing, and that's
And
great.
what's the like? If anybody watches this, that's a local. How do you move up the ladder at Blue Ridge Comedy Club? What's the
Man, it's all proving it on stage, really. I mean, come to the open mic, and if you're good at the open mic, I'll probably offer you a weekend spot, and like that first spot might be a guest spot.
yeah.
But if you're good on that, then you might be hosting. And then we just had a guy I think 2 weeks ago that moved up to where at the end of the weekend I went like, well, you can feature now,
Nice. That's
and
cool.
the path is there because I'm there all the time. Like
Yeah.
you're going to be in front of the booker, like if you're doing a show. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, any crazy stories first couple of years?
Um, man, I would say that on our opening night, a guy was heckling the feature comedian who was
Okay.
huge. This guy, so my friend John Baglio came down to feature, and he's like 6'5" and like 270 pounds. I mean, but a real sweetheart, and he's got baby face, so people probably don't realize. But this guy in the audience is just heckling him, just laying into him. Nobody else in the audience wants to hear from him. And finally I had to go over and I had to be like, hey man, you're gonna have to leave. And he got up and he took his PBR and he held it like a foot over his mouth and just like waterfalled it and just drank the whole thing, crushed it on his forehead, and walked out. And at that point, I was like, I've made a mistake opening a comedy club.
Oh, that's so funny. Holy cow. Is he a regular now? Have you ever seen him again?
I actually have seen him. He
Yeah.
he tried to sign up for our stand-up 101 class, and I had to tell him that he couldn't do it.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well, here's a crazy story. I don't know if it's happened yet, but I got an email the other day that Mark Norman is coming through your club or did come through your club. That's
Yeah,
wild. How does that happen?
he's coming on April 4th. And also, if you're listening, please don't ask me if we have tickets left. We don't. So but yeah, basically a friend of mine who owns this great place in town. It's called Cascade. It's just like they have like 40 revolving beer taps.
Mhm.
He had Mark Norman booked before COVID, like before anything shut down for his space, which was pretty small, but I guess Mark wasn't that big back then.
Yeah.
So, or, whatever the case was, he was supposed to go there. And then when I think he's heading to Knoxville to do a theater show, and Knoxville's
Okay.
only 2 hours from here. So somebody reached out, somebody in between my friend who owns that bar and Mark reached out and said, do you want to have him this time? Do you want him to come through? And my friend, being a great friend, was like, hey, why don't we ask the comedy club if they want to have him? Because that would be a better venue for this type of thing.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we all got in touch. We signed contracts and, he's coming here. The first show sold out in, I think, 30 minutes.
That's
And
incredible.
we added a second show and that thing sold out in like a day. And I don't even think I had made that one public. I like only sent it to like our email list and stuff. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's wild. Let's talk about marketing and like email lists and like what have been some things that have worked well for you to basically get butts in seats. That's like the most important part of the business, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that a comic has like a good quality clip that I can use for advertising, I'll pay a little bit of money to Facebook or Meta or whatever to just like get some more eyes on it and try to get it seen a lot where we live
Sure.
and let people know who's coming. And also be
Can
able
I
to have,
ask you
yeah.
if do you have any specific tips for setting up those ads? Anything that you do?
Oh man, I had to have somebody really walk me through this and like show me. And they set up my audience by like location so
Okay.
that now all that I have to go in and do is like click something that says like use previous audience or something.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I would recommend is like get somebody that knows that um, software or platform or whatever to set it up for you and describe it enough like to teach you enough that you can replicate like that ad each time.
Right.
Yeah,
So the audience is important, is the takeaway there, the target audience.
I think so. I mean, there's like, well, the thing is that like I've seen people posting ads for shows that are like 500 miles away, so I think just like at least
I hate to admit it, but I've done that before. I've dropped $50 and I
yeah,
went back to check it and I realized I was targeting United States.
yeah. And sometimes it's just like
You'd think they'd warn you, you
right,
know?
exactly. They don't warn you. They got
No,
your
no,
money.
they
They
just
don't need
take
to.
your money. They're happy to take it.
I mean, we've done it. Like, I get some message from somebody that's like, "I'm in California. I don't know why I'm seeing this," and I go, "Oh, okay. Well, let me check what we clicked on."
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so some Facebook ads, people with good clips. You're making video ads. Sounds like anything. Tell me about your email strategy. Did you have that from the very beginning?
Email strategy?
Yeah. No.
Not
Okay.
really, and it's still like evolving. I mean, our email list grows every week, and I think we have something like 7,000 emails now, and
Nice.
yeah. So like, I try to send an email out once a week
Okay.
and just say whether it's like the upcoming shows or if somebody that we've had at the club has done something exciting, like they got the Tonight Show and they hadn't done it before or whatever,
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, check out, this person's clip. They just did the Tonight Show. You got to see them back in April, but now they're being seen by the whole country. People love that stuff.
Nice.
So it doesn't even have to be about like upcoming shows.
Mhm.
I think like writing emails that tell you about the comedians is really helpful. Like just anything interesting. And sometimes you can write emails about comedians that like you aren't even having. Like, don't claim that you're going to have them. Just like be like, did you know these are like the top 5 grossing comedians in the country right now? People that enjoy comedy like learning about comedy. So
Yeah, and they're gonna read your emails if they're
yeah,
not always spammy and selling stuff.
yeah. Well, thank you for reading them.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Okay, so emails, online ads. Do you do any like old school advertising, newspaper, radio, billboard,
We have
signs?
we have done radio and we have done billboard, and I believe we've done newspaper as well.
Okay.
Although that gets like digital now too, so I think that kind of I don't know how old school it is, but yeah, I think that the radio helps a little bit, although it's a little bit harder to track. Like if you use, let's say you use Meta, you can see conversions. You
Yeah.
can pick, hey, tell me when somebody purchases and like what the return on ad spend is. But if you're doing radio, then you got to like maybe if you can get them to use a promo code, maybe you
Yeah.
can track it a little bit. But some people won't even use that promo code anyways.
Right.
So it's a little bit harder and a little bit intangible, I think.
Have you used the same ticketing system since you opened?
Yeah, we've been using the same one. It's a Seed Engine, which I know a lot of comedy clubs use,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it's made it. I mean, it's easy for me. Whenever I need a refund done or something, they're there. When we've asked them to add something to the website, they do it. So
Nice.
yeah, I've been happy with them.
Cool. How about the actual like guest experience at the comedy club? Has that changed over the years? I don't know, the way you seat people, food service, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it changed a bit on our busier nights where I'm better prepared for them now, because we've had nights where we sold like 40 tickets and then we end up with 80 people, whereas I was expecting like 45 people. But now if we sell 40 tickets, I'm like, I need to be ready in case we get like 70 or 80.
Right.
So, if we get 30 or 40, we get a bartender, I'll seat people or check them in, but if we're getting up to the higher numbers, I'll like hire somebody to work at the door and check people in and show them the seats. And, we might hire somebody to like be a service person just for like the VIP seats up front, so that they're getting their own server. Things
Yeah.
like that. We've changed a little bit.
We got a question from North Carolina here. How many dates per month do you average? When there's nothing booked, do you host other events?
So we do, I mean, every Friday, Saturday, we have shows. So I'd say that at least those 8 per month. And then Wednesday's open mic. Thursdays, we're always open to booking people. We've done like improv on Thursdays. We've done showcase shows. We've done lots of different things. But like if somebody hits me up that wants to come to town and I have everything booked for the weekends, I'm always happy to talk about Thursday or Sunday,
Yeah. Nice. How about do you host, I don't know, somebody wanted to do a baseball team award ceremony or something like that? Do you do that kind of stuff?
We haven't done anything that wasn't like at least somewhat comedy related.
Okay.
Like we haven't like hosted anything. It's actually against our lease to do that too.
Oh,
So
okay.
because we're in a building that has like other like event spaces and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particularly awesome headliners you want to shout out over the last 3 years?
Oh man, there's just like so many. But I would say that Michael Palisak blew me away when he was here. Like I hadn't seen him before. I wasn't like really familiar with him before he came here, and he was a killer. And just like much younger comic that kind of like really did well and sold pretty good too. Is Amber Autry was here a couple weeks ago.
I have
And
Amber in like 3 weeks coming to
oh,
Colorado. We're doing a run together. I'm real excited about it. I've never seen her perform, but I've heard a lot of great things from club owners.
yeah, she's wonderful, and she's hustling. I mean, like we went to like a bakery afterwards that's like just open till midnight or whatever, and she'd like hand out a card to somebody and be like, "Come to my show tomorrow." Like, yeah, so
Nice. Good. I love comics like that. I mean, I'll say she's selling tickets like
yeah,
very impressively. Like there are people with big TV credits that aren't selling tickets like she is. And I don't know exactly what she's doing. I'll ask her
yeah,
when she gets out here, but people are buying tickets, 6 weeks out for her show.
yeah.
I'm excited.
That's great. Yeah, I don't.
Um,
I mean, I guess she's appealing. Like, it's coming through on the videos, I guess, on the posters, I guess, but like at the actual live show, like she's great. And it took me seeing her live before I really realized that, because I had seen video, but then I saw her
mhm.
at the Lookout Festival in Chattanooga, and I was like, oh yeah, there's like an electricity to this like performance. So yeah,
Awesome.
she's a killer.
Nice. All right. So we got to kind of land this plane. I got an email from you today that hinted at some changes for the Blue Ridge Comedy Club. You want to talk about that at all?
Oh yeah. This is a big deal. We're gonna be moving out of our location that we've been in for almost 3 years. We're going into a building all our own. There won't be any other business in that building. It's like 4,100 square feet. So it's
Whoa.
yeah, it's big. Ideally I'd like for it to be like 150 seat venue. We need to do a lot of work to it to have it get to that capacity, is specifically like fire prevention stuff. And then we want it to be like accessible for people, so there's a lot of work to be done. And we started like a fundraiser thing online today, which has been like very successful first day, like super happy with how supportive people have been. So it's an exciting time right now. We're looking at the next couple of months and we might be moving into like a really, really cool space.
That's amazing. That's so cool. All right. How can people buy tickets, come see shows, etc.? How do they find you?
Sure. BlueRidgeComedy.com is the website. If you want to, go there, buy some tickets, or just like follow the club, you can just sign up for email, and I'll just email you once a week.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And are you out there? Are you traveling doing comedy at all, or did you get up and host still, or what's your
I host a lot of
situation?
shows at the club. I like to be sort of like the ambassador to the club, but I've been trying now that we've got some good comics, I've been trying to step away a little bit and get like some road gigs and stuff too. Because
Nice.
I don't like, you know, if I'm hosting at the club, I'm not really making money, but if I'm like able to go out and do some other gigs, I can make a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm trying to hit some more gigs and,
Okay. How do people follow your comedy journey?
Instagram probably is like that's where I post most of my stuff. It's just
Okay.
Shawn Carter comedy. I've got a couple clips
And
up
it's for
there.
people listening, it's
Yeah,
ShawnCarter.
yeah. So that's probably where I'm most active.
Nice. Awesome. Well, really great to talk to you. Thanks for your time. Very generous of you. And hope the move goes great. And
Thank you.
it's just awesome all around. So BlueRidgeComedy.com, everybody. Sign up for that email list. We'll be back next Monday. Another awesome episode of Always Bookin Comedy. Thank you to Shawn Carter for being here. And we're going to close